So, the next thing would be, looking at your sort of, is your IP house in order? I can't tell you, a lot of times we might have a client that checks in, we light them up, set up incorporate them, get their stock plan set up, restricted stock purchase agreements, maybe from time to time they touch the option agreement, or maybe not, and maybe we don't hear from them for several months. The issue is you really need to make sure. Sometimes we have clients that have never used counsel, and then all of a sudden they've got a deal and they get referred to us. Do you have PIAs, proprietary invention assignment agreements, in place with everybody that's been through and touched your code, touched your IP? Existing and former employees. Are there appropriate IP assignments from contractors? This can be a real big hang-up. I can't tell you how many deals maybe didn't blow up, but certainly got sidetracked or delayed or something, or you got some guy that kind of a whack-a-mole popped his head out and said, like, okay, we got to get this guy to sign this IP assignment, and he left maybe under not great circumstances, 6 months, 18 months before, and you're trying to chase this guy down to get him to sign some PIA, and he's like, well, what's in it for me? Not a good situation to be in when you're trying to close. And the next thing you know, you're trying to figure out how to write the guy a check. It's pretty annoying. And the thing is, you can avoid all of that as long as you make it a practice to make sure you get these things signed up as you bring people in. The cap table, you got to get the cap table. Make sure the cap table's in order. Got a lot of clients that have made promises to various people and have never papered it up. Oh, we'll paper it up later. That's not good. It's not good for the recipient, because they haven't started the clock. The fair market value of the stock has gone up in the interim, and then everybody's sitting around the table trying to figure out how do we resolve this, because now, okay, yeah, back in the day when we made the promise, it was 0.001 per share, but now, you're getting a term sheet, or you got a term sheet, or even, you got a deal, and it says your company's $15 million, but you still haven't made grants to anybody. Well, guess what? There's no way to kind of go la 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 and like go back in time and say, oh, we were issuing a stock for 0.001 per share. It's going to bear on the fair market value.
You can do that, but I think you end up going to jail. Right. Last time I checked. So.
And again, so you just got to be. You just get it done. You talk to your counsel. You got issuances to do. Get them done. Then there's that big period in the very beginning where you can do restricted stock grants. And then kind of thereafter, it's option grants. So I guess with option grants, maybe it's not such a crisis, but certainly with stock grants, if you haven't done them, that can be problematic. And then vesting. We all set sort of 4-year vesting, 1-year cliff, and founders get maybe 3-year vesting and 1 year up front. When you have vesting left, what you do need to know, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of even vesting my founders that come in, you have these 280G golden parachute rules can apply. 5 minutes. So that's a big issue, actually. And you need disinterested shareholder support to approve of any acceleration of vesting when you sell, to avoid a 20% excise tax. And so you need to know that your investors, if they are actually equity holders, are going to back you on that. I actually had a weird deal 4 or 5 years ago, back in the day when I deferred fees, which I don't do anymore, where actually we, apart from the founder, were the only holder of stock. And so I had to actually be the disinterested shareholder to approve the 280G excise tax acceleration, which was a weird position to be in. I had a premium on my fees for that deal. Not just kidding. So solicitation shopping, the obvious, they're going to hit this. I'm sure avoid less than, you don't want to just engage with one acquirer. A lot of times I have people that, they're going to be our big customer, we're going to do everything with them, and then even the biz dev guys or the guys they're working with are like, yeah, this is great, and we'll never do you wrong. And then what happens is at the last minute, CFO jumps in and puts a kibosh and says, that $30 million that you've been talking about is $3 million. So you really need to make sure that if you're both, when you're building the company and you think that you're, it's all lined up to have, X company acquire me, whether it's the way you do the code or whether it's focused on a particular product line or operating system or something, I would always tell you, branch out. even if it's for show, because you want to have other people in the dialogue. I would say verbally communicate to the acquirer ahead of times what issues are really important to you, because when that first term sheet comes off their desk, it's set. The discussion has been set. So I always try to have my clients ahead of time kind of prime and say, look, this is what I'm expecting, this is what I want. Because if you just wait for that first term sheet to come over, now it's a negotiation. Versus ahead of time, you can set some expectations and do some pre-negotiation. I think it's really important. Your founders, the technology, particularly the engineers, key engineers, technology people, are they prepared to continue to work? And that's a big question. That goes back to the beginning of whether you're ready to sell, because these things are talent acquisitions. If you have a bunch of people that want to, get $1.5 million or $5 million and blow out, it's not going to work, because they want these people to come join the company. So you need to make sure that people are aligned and ready to go work and stick on with the company. I'm trying to think about how do I skip over some of this stuff. NDAs, be on the lookout for exclusivity, no shops. You want to look to get a non-solicit in that NDA that's really important, actually, with potential acquirers that are looking, because if you don't have the non-solicit, maybe they just like that one, killer engineer you have that they did deep technical diligence with, and the next thing you know, they're going to make the guy an offer, and they're like, we don't need the company or these other guys. So make sure you get a non-solicit that's baked into your NDA. Sometimes it can help to set up a data room. If it's a big enough deal and you have enough acquirers, that can make a really good process run. Deal points, probably the biggest one is always going to be the IP infringement rep. It seems to, I always predict it, and actually 9 times out of 10 it actually ends up being the last thing that you're all grinding out over is the IP infringement rep. So, have a position, understand what that means early on. That should be one of the things you go to your lawyers and like, some guy said IP infringement rep. It's really important. So you should talk to them and understand what that issue is, because that is generally going to be a key issue, and that's going to tie to the indemnification cap. So can you go to sleep at night after this deal is done, or do you need to squirrel away a bunch of money because it could all come, it could all get taken back from you. Part of that, by the way, is the tax. I know that most of you probably do QuickBooks, if even QuickBooks. It can be problematic, because if you haven't done your accounting, if you haven't done your tax reporting, haven't filed your tax returns well, that is one of the things that almost always with any sophisticated acquirer, which these guys are, and most people around the Bay Area are, they're going to carve that out from the cap. So you're almost going to have like unlimited liability if you've really screwed up there. Now, it's hard to, because generally, I think as Danny pointed out, it's mostly losses. But I just should point out that's one of the things that's carved out from an indemnification cap. And while we always try to get, and we always do generally get, a cap, note that can be carved out. And then the other big issue is going to be the escrow, the holdback. What's that going to be? And I already talked about that in the very beginning. It's usually a pretty significant chunk, and it's usually tied to you or your team's future services. You want to make sure that gets broken up individually. So if your co-founder blows out, it doesn't screw up your holdback. And sometimes, a lot of first drafts, it's just say, anybody blows out, like you're all doomed, including the investors. And so everybody's like, wow, pukes on that. And you need to carve it out to make sure it's for each individual, that if they decide to not stick it out for 2 years or whatever it is, that's only going to impact their holdback. Last thing I would tell you is, and this is always the meeting, the pump up I have with my clients before we sort of embark on the whole negotiation, when maybe we get something served up, is you got to stick with your positions. If you have to, and it happens for sure. I mean, I'm not looking for bullheaded clients, but get negotiated off them. Don't volunteer because you start getting nervous and you think, oh, they're going to bail on this deal. You really got to avoid the hasty backpedaling or the concessions out of fear, because it usually has the opposite effect. And that's not so much legal, but again, it's having done a lot of deals. What I ask for my clients is I'm just like, if they get you in a room and I'm not around, just don't agree to anything. And, it's like Miranda rights. Just don't agree to anything because they'll say it and they'll make you nervous and you're like, oh, okay, I'll cave on that. And the problem is, as long as I can have a client, I think that probably goes for most lawyers in my position. If you have a client that's consistent, that's tough, that sticks with it, they notice this as well. They notice if you've got a backbone or not a backbone. And again, it doesn't mean that you have to be bullheaded, but it means you need to be consistent. You need to get negotiated off positions, and you're going to have actually a lot cleaner deal. I think that if they always think they can grab, it's almost like their fiduciary duty to keep trying to grab from you because they answer to a higher power. Their boss. And ultimately their stockholders and the public stockholders. So it's not like they're completely trying to be rats. It's just that's what their charge is to do is get the best possible deal they can. And the CFOs, guarding, or the controllers, guarding the pocketbook, and they're going to keep pressing and keep pushing the matter. So you have to be consistent in your positions. Don't cave too quickly. So there it is. An entire practice.
It's as simple as that.
You don't need to engage the lawyer at this point. I should do it. Just keep looking at the stream that's been saved on the internet. You can do it yourself. Just kidding. Okay. So anything else, Danny?
I mean, I think just 30 seconds. I think the one thing I would stress, and the biggest mistake that I see, is that people don't get advice early enough. They always get it when it's a little bit too late. So it's worth spending some money now getting advice from a rent-a-CFO organization or a rent-a-controller. Get your books and records in order. I'm sure that's stuff that you would really prefer not to do yourself anyway, and that'll save you a lot further down the line. So get your tax returns done. Don't have that come up as a due diligence issue, because as Todd said, they'll either put it in escrow, or they'll come back and tell you you have a sales tax nexus in 3 states, and they're going to take
that's a big issue, by the way.
They're going to take $1 million off the top.
With these internet businesses, you're like, you don't even realize that you're getting all sorts of potential liability. And a lot of those laws are changing right now. A lot of people being very aggressive. A lot of states are being very aggressive.
Yeah. So and the attorney generals, the AGs, are really aggressive. So if you have an internet related business and potentially have some sales tax nexus, I mean, that number, I guarantee by the time they bring an expert in to do financial due diligence, that number will just be a massive number, and you'll be negotiating down from that number. So it's worth investing early on, getting a temporary CFO to help you. So I think we're getting a sign.
But no hook this time. Okay, that's it. I would say questions, but I guess if you guys want to corner me and exchange cards, I'd be in heaven. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scott. Great. I'm now going to welcome Carolyn, who I saw for a second. Oh, there she is, to give you a brief announcement about TriNet.
Great. Thank you, Cassie. This is the commercial announcement for the night. So basically, TriNet, all of you guys are very busy executives. You're busy running and growing your business. And in talking with a lot of you, I go to a lot of these events, and there's varying degrees of experience that you all have, not only just being an employer, but with HR in general. And essentially what we do for our clients is we put HR on autopilot for you. We're an instant, scalable HR infrastructure. And we're bundling together a couple things critical to an HR function, payroll, workers' comp, and health benefits. So we're delivering that service in a completely paperless, web-based solution. So in addition to that technology piece, we're also there as a trusted advisor to you for strategic HR issues and any questions related to HR. So my name is Carolyn. My colleague Daryl is in the back. Daryl, do you want to stand up and say hello? So we work with about 2,000 companies, mostly high-tech startup companies in the Bay Area. So we understand your business, and we'd love to chat with you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to come and find me and ask away. Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. We're now going to welcome Rick Marini from Branch Out and Nathan Beckert, our host. One final announcement that if your car is downstairs in the parking lot, it will get locked in at 7. So, all right, I'll let you guys take it away.
All right. It's story time. It's war story time. I'm super excited about this. We have Rick Marini for those of you who don't know him, he is currently founder and CEO of Branch Out, a very popular and fast-growing, I'll let you do the pitch, but